So we have a very well-known parable this weekend, the parable of the Good Samaritan. It's known even very well known, even outside of Christian circles of those without even a knowledge of the Bible by just the phrase and the institutions that use the name Good Samaritan, right? You have hospitals are just down the road in Downers Grove, Good Samaritan Hospital. You'll hear in the media and the news when someone helps a stranger, the headline goes something like, "A good Samaritan comes to the aid of so-and-so who was in trouble." So it's well known, this parable, the idea of the good Samaritan who acts freely to help a stranger in need, someone who's suffering. But the question is posed to Jesus by this man, and he says, okay, I'm supposed to love God with all my mind, soul, strength, and my neighbor as myself. And he wants to try to pin Jesus down, and he asks them, well, who exactly is my neighbor, though? And Jesus answers that question with the parable. And side note here, whenever Jesus answers a question with a parable, like the guy's in trouble, okay? Like he's got it coming for him, okay? Like look out. This is the case here today. And the point here, as we know this parable, the point is Jesus is saying, there is no one who's not your neighbor. And this hits close to home for this man, because this man has some enemies. And Jesus knows this, of course. This man is a Jew. And the Jews, for a number of different reasons, hate Samaritans. And so he has the Samaritan being the enemy, who he's forced to say, the Samaritan is my neighbor. We do not get to pick and choose who are our neighbors. The person standing in front of us is our neighbor. And so it forces us to consider, who do I have a difficult time seeing as my neighbor? Who do I struggle to love? What prejudices might linger in my heart? A group of people that I look down upon? A kind of person I slightly judge before I know their story? You know, on Thursday, I spent a good bit of time at the airport. Flight was delayed a little bit, and I don't know if there's a better spot to do people watching than the airport, okay? I love people watching. If you situate yourself in the right spot with the chairs that face the aisle or the concourse, where people walk, thousands of people over the course of 3-4 hours, of course. There's some good people watching at airports. But airports are also a great place to pay attention and notice the interior commentary that one has. I notice a person with tons of facial tattoos. I notice a pride pin. I notice the businessman who's yelling into the phone and cussing someone out. What's the interior commentary there that I have? Do I primarily see the person first as someone who's loved by God? Do I have a genuine love for the person? Do I see them as my neighbor? Now, of course, this isn't a homily about, we are to judge actions, okay? We get that wrong as a society. We are to judge actions, but we don't judge the heart. Do I have an interior compassion for the person before me? Compassion means to suffer with them. You know, one of the things you realize when you get older, and I think I can say that now, everyone is suffering in one way or another. That is on full display in airports. I don't care if it's the person who has the nice walk and dressed perfectly. If I were to follow that person long enough at the airport, I didn't do this, okay? But if I were, and if I watched them long enough, I eavesdrop on their conversations. I listen to their conversation on the phone. In some way or another, they're suffering. We are all neighbors. You know, John Paul II commenting on this parable, he said, the name Good Samaritan is the individual who is sensitive to the sufferings of others, who is moved by the misfortune of another. Therefore, one must cultivate sensitivity of heart, which bears witness to compassion towards a suffering person. Question becomes, what's the sensitivity of my heart at? Like I say often that we have to guard against our hearts becoming cold and callous. So how do we cultivate this sensitivity of heart? Maybe, perhaps especially to those people that we find difficult to love or to see as our neighbor. You know, I could say silence and prayer, and of course those, if I were to give a list, that would be the top of the list. But here's the number one way, because we only have time for one. And it's to look at this parable the way that the church fathers interpreted this parable. Because it looks like Jesus is just giving a moral teaching on everyone, to the fact that everyone is our neighbor. And Jesus is doing that, to be sure. But there's also something more. The church fathers unanimously interpreted the fact that the man who went from Jerusalem down to Jericho, who fell victim to robbers, was stripped and wounded and left half dead by the side of the road, is you and me. He stands for fallen humanity, the state of our human condition, born into sin. We've all been damaged by sin, needing someone to come and pick us up. The priest, the Levite, passing by on the other side, stands for the law and the prophets, not able to rescue us from the condition of sin. We are utterly helpless in our condition, the condition of sin. Not able to do anything, the law, the prophets, not us ourselves, not being able to do anything ourselves to get out from underneath the condition of sin. Jesus comes, the Good Samaritan. The text says, who's moved with compassion, who applies oil and wine, which the church fathers mentioned stood for mercy and justice, puts the man on the beast, which stands for Jesus' human nature, takes the man to the inn standing for the church, the sacraments, so that one can receive health from the sacraments and be brought back to life, waiting for the Lord's return. Pope Francis, commenting on this parable, says this: the Lord comes to meet each one of us. He does not ignore us. He knows our pain, our sorrows. He knows how much we need help and comfort. He comes close to us and never abandons us. Each one of us should ask themselves the question and answer in his heart, do I believe this? Do I believe that the Lord has compassion for me as a sinner with so many problems and so many issues? Think about that. And answer, yes. But each one of us must look into his heart and see if he has faith in this compassion of God, of the good God who comes close, who heals us, who caresses us. And if we reject him, he waits, he's patient, and he's always at our side. Lying on the road, dead in sin, Jesus comes to pick us up and carries us to the end. And he does that today. He does it now, at this liturgy. He comes to care for you. He's gentle with you. He knows how weak your humanity is. God becomes our neighbor, becomes human, so as to save you and me. See, it's only when we realize this, right, that we're the ones forget half dead, fully dead on the side of the road in our human condition, sin. That Jesus comes and picks us up and carries us away. It's that experience, encountering that reality, that cultivates the sensitivity of heart that John Paul II is talking about. So let him lift you so that you can love like him, especially to the ones perhaps that we struggle to love and struggle to see as our neighbor.